Hi, my name is Bart Rupert. In today's session, we're going to go through the quantum leap advantage. That's QLA practices as worked by an M&A professional. And ultimately, what we're going to look at are the principles and strategies laid out by Dan Pena in as much depth as we can, although it'll be very high level, and how they work and how you might be able to take those and put those on steroids in order to get more out of it as you're going through and doing M&A out there in the world. So as we go and look at some of the elements of QLA and what's behind that, we're going to find a few key tenets that we're going to cover today. Some of those tenets are finding retired professionals who are highly qualified that can be part of our dream team, being able to hire lawyers on a deferred fee basis, how to do that, where to find them, how to actually speak to them, finding businesses that are doing upwards of $1 million in EBITDA, which is profit, with a motivated seller, and then ultimately trying to talk those guys into a deal and being able to finance that deal, hiring the team to be able to turn around and do that, and then growing that business to a higher multiple ultimately before we sell them. QLA is based on a number of tenets, one of which is building rapport with the group, finding a dream team that can do the work, and ultimately financing that strategy to be able to get a deal done and move on in the next one. Within that, I'll say I'm not an expert on this. I've not been through the Castle Seminar with Dan Pena, but I've got a tremendous amount of respect for him. The guy is a badass. And within that, there's a lot of things that he talks about that can work very well in the real world. And there's elements of it that we use and practice on a day-to-day basis. What I'd like to do is walk through some of those and give you a bit more insight into how you might be able to use those practically in the real world. So let's go and take a look at some of the things that we can maximize our chances of being successful with QLA. And the most notable there is that we're going to focus on sourcing deals and then bringing in a dream team that can do the rest. And why do we say, let's go ahead and focus on sourcing deals? I'll tell you why. From what I found in our practices, ultimately, where people win or lose the battle in M&A is being able to find the deals and the opportunities. If you can't go out there and actually find the opportunities, get them in front of you, and work that in a churn basis where you've got some degree of saturation or volume, you're not going to be successful. It all comes down to starting with the deal. It's deal flow or death in this business. And I do view it as a business. If you're going to be going out there and taking down deals for a living, you've got to have deal flow. That's your lifeblood. It's like advertising or marketing to be able to pull in those customers. The deals are your customers. So you've got to be proficient at that. More so, you got to be an expert at that, or at least understand how to guide a team that you've hired to be able to do it. So as we go looking at the strategies and how we're going to practically pull all this together, you've got to have ultimate accountability over finding the deals and vetting them and making sure that they're good. Once that happens, you can bring in others that you're going to source as part of your dream team. Now, what do those guys do as part of the dream team? They're going to help you structure and close the deal. And there's a couple ways we could look at this, or at least there's a couple things you can do with this. One of which is you can structure that for acquisitions, like you'd look at traditionally with QLA. That can be minority or majority shares. Most of QLA is focused on taking complete control of a company, but the reality is you could take minority ownership and have voting rights within the company and some degree of control. And that's a great scenario, by the way, if you want to get annuities for life to be able to go and have essentially payouts from the stock that you own on a quarterly or annual basis. It's a great strategy. You may not control the company, but as long as you believe in the team, you believe in where they're going, the business model, if you've got payouts that are coming for a minority equity share, that's just mailbox money. It's showing up every month and it's paying your bills. It's great stuff. You get like half a dozen of those going and you could have like 50 grand a month coming in. You could also line it up to where, of course, you go and do the windfall exit, which is selling the company. But it can go beyond that. If you look towards mergers, different things you can do with traditional roll-ups, virtual roll-ups, there are all kinds of opportunities to be able to combine the horsepower and tonnage with those strategies into a grander strategy or a larger play. You can also go after investments to be able to do capital placement, taking capital that you pull in from the techniques of QLA to the actual exits or strategies or businesses that you've got that you're an equity holder in. And then ultimately growth. You want to be able to take the businesses and either flip them or grow them to flip them or build annuities off of them. The idea is whatever you own, you want to have it appreciate in value. You want to have it grow. You don't want to have it remain stagnant. You certainly don't want to have it slip backwards. And then finally, you could look towards an IPO. If you ultimately go forth and do an IPO, then that is a strategy where you want to look longer term. It's typically like a 3-year plan to be able to get to that point. But if you're in a situation where you believe the opportunity, the market, the strategy can lend towards an IPO, or you can get a whole lot more out of it by actually listing it publicly through an exchange, there are ways to do that that are very cost effective that allow you to get far more out of it. It's just another exit strategy. Ultimately, in a good market, selling the business to a strategic or financial investor is probably going to be your best play, particularly if it's strategic. If you sell to a strategic player, then you've got that multiplier that's working very much in your favor. But if you've got somewhat of a commoditized business, then either one might work out. You can't really take a commoditized business to an IPO. You really want that to be something exciting that a lot of people within the public eye are going to pay attention to in order to make that work. Now, all this said, these are a bunch of different ideas we're hitting with. They don't all fall within the fabric of what you typically see with QLA, but there is one thing that we do look at that is our number one rule with every deal we take on. No matter what we do, we're going to make money. And if we look at the number one deal the number one rule that we've got is let's make money on every single deal. And this is really inspired by Warren Buffett. To where Buffett would tell us, look, go out there and make money, make that your priority, not because you're a bad person. Ultimately, we are capitalists. We want to be able to succeed. We want to be able to achieve. We want to be able to actually recognize revenue and profit for our effort. This isn't a game. It's not something we're doing as a hobby. We're not taking down deals for the sake of bragging rights. Who gives a crap about that? What we're after is making money so that we can enhance our own lives. We can enhance the lives of people around us, including our family, our friends, the people we care about, the people we love. Now, the other thing goes with that, if you're going down the path of being a deal maker and you're after deals to be able to make money, do keep in mind that 85% of your success, no matter how skilled you are, is going to be determined by your attitude and your personality. So the way you approach this has got to be reflective of how much you want it, in the sense that if you really feel you can go after this and make a good living off of it, then really go after it. Be hardcore about it. That's one of the things I really love about Pena, is that he is hardcore. He asks a lot of people. He's demanding. He gets in your face. He really pushes you beyond what you believe your limits are. That's what it takes to be successful in this business. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak. It's not for somebody that's going to sit and go, oh, well, the deal didn't come to me. Who cares? You got to go out there and get it. Everybody that ever earns anything in life has got to be able to step up and go out and make it happen. Now, it's true, there is an element of luck in everything you could do. You could be the smartest person in the room, you could be the hardest worker in the room, and still not be successful if you just run on some bad luck. But that's not an excuse, because anybody that gets knocked down or kicked in the teeth, they're going to get back up and get out there and make it happen. The successful people are the ones that have their attitude and personality driven towards, no matter how many times I get kicked in the face and knocked on my ass, I'm going to get back up and exceed. No matter what, exceed the expectations that I set for myself and really set a high bar and make sure that I'm successful, no matter what happens. And that's coming down to, here are my goals. Here's what it's going to take to get there. I'm going to go out and make it happen. And that's what really separates the people that are weak and aren't going to go out there and make a living for themselves and set themselves apart from others and get in seven figures, etc., from those that are truly successful. It's just persistence, folks. It's the ability to pick yourself back up and keep going. And ultimately, the way Pena reminds us of that is by saying, look, if you're not able to do that, then you're whatever. Insert whatever he wants to say, which I think is quite hilarious. But it just really comes down to, if you're going to go out there and be a lion, you got to do lion stuff. You got to get your teeth dirty. You got to get your paws bloody. You got to be able to wrestle that gazelle to the ground, grab it by the neck, and just squeeze the life out of it, because that's sometimes what it takes. Now, ultimately, within what we're talking about here and within the experience that Pena has, I've got nowhere near what that man has done. I mean, he is an absolute masterpiece in terms of what he's been able to accomplish. However, there are some things I've been able to create over a long period of time. And in terms of introductions, it might be valuable just to tell you a little bit about what I've done. First and foremost, I've started nearly 30 companies. So I've got a great amount of experience starting companies, running companies, and selling companies. And in the course of that, I've also negotiated over $500 million in deals, which is extraordinarily small by Pena standards, but ultimately everybody needs something to aspire to. Now with the startups, I took several of those to multi-million-dollar companies. I grew, quite a few of them into good exit positions. I've worked with Fortune 500s. But most notably, I've taken startups from ground zero to over 10 million, took a healthcare company from 8 to over 75 before the exit, and then an energy company from 22 to over 115 before the exit. Today, I do M&A. So I'm focused primarily on the sell side, but also on the buy side, helping people both sell and buy companies, running an M&A firm, but primarily interested in some of the strategies that Pena and others can teach, because there's so much applicability with everything we do. There's so much relevant, particularly around the mindset. The type of mindset that Pena enforces is critical to being able to do deals. And I love working with people that are actually exposed to QLA and know what it's about, because they've just got that cutting edge personality. They've got that razor sharp mind to be able to say, yeah, I understand, I got to go out there and make it happen for myself. Nobody's just going to deliver it to me on a silver platter. Because there's this element of this business that's based on your mindset and your attitude. And if you're indomitable and you go out there with the idea of just crushing it, like that lion after that gazelle, you're going to win. It may take you a few times, and you may need some help from a dream team, but you are going to win. If you're the type of person that's going to sit back and not do much, you're not going to be attracted to Pena. That's not going to resonate with you. Really, the hardcore people are who go after Pena. So any friend of Dan Pena is a friend of mine.